Hey, what is up, everybody? This is Stevie Breach coming to you here today. Today we are going to be doing the last edition of Who Killed WCW, a 1 hour doc that's going to be on Vice. I think that this documentary series done by The Rock's people, it was really well done. There was some buzz. It seems like each week it dies off a little bit, but of all the episodes that we're doing, I'm really looking forward to the last edition of WCW Nitro. There's been, podcasts, we did the 83 weeks with Eric Bischoff. His story was kind of crazy because he was actually trying to buy WCW in the last dying days of the company being alive before it was bought by Vince McMahon and the WWE. And then, of course, we had Bruce with What Happened When. Bruce Pritchard, he was there actually producing the show. He did an episode on it in the early days of the podcast, probably back in 2016, I guess. I can't believe that show. Even though they do a lot of best ofs, a lot of mashups, for as busy as he is, still working in WWE, still trying to find a way to keep that show alive with Conrad. I give it to him. That guy's busy. That guy's on call pretty much all the time. But the last edition of Nitro, it really was them, taking the dog out back, for one last walk. I remember on the episode of Nitro, before it, Eric Bischoff called into the show and he talked about that he had, some business backers and they were trying to buy WCW from Time Warner. They wanted to keep it alive and they wanted to keep it running. I remember in the last, let's say, month of WCW, it was said that Eric Bischoff was kind of running it, even though he was trying to buy it. They called it, I believe it was called the Night of Champions. It was going to be taking place from Panama City, the home where they had done many spring break shows, mostly all from Club La Vila. This episode, whether if it was just to not being able to book Club La Vila because WCW wasn't the name that it once was, maybe it cost too much money. It actually took place from another club in Panama City that was called the Boardwalk Beach Resort. That's why, honestly, you can see a lot of people just sitting in their hotel rooms on the balconies watching the show. I've been to Club La Vila in Panama City. It is now closed down. It got hit by a hurricane probably at least more than 5 years ago. And it's never really come back. They never got another owner. They never got the money to put the place back together. It doesn't even honestly look like they've tried. Panama City isn't really the town that it once was with the MTV spring break shows and everything like that. Still busy, still the Redneck Riviera. But I guess Club La Vila is never going to come to be. Someday they're going to have to just knock it down and somebody start over, whether if it's somebody building a resort or a hotel. I'm not sure if they'll do another dance club. I went to spring break in Panama City in 1999. I went to a Juvenile concert. He never showed up. Ended up being canceled. And then people didn't want to leave the club as it was leaving, and the cops came in, and as soon as I saw that first whoosh, nightstick that they can whip out there, and I like the Big Boss Man, the one that extends, I was like, all right, time to leave. Let's go. Yeah, it is what it is. The episode of Nitro, besides for Vince McMahon, and besides for the historic reference of it being the last Nitro, honestly, it's not very good. I only really have memories of 3 matches that really went down. Vince McMahon does the intro to the show, where basically he's saying that he bought WCW, and I don't really think he's gonna kill it, but he's basically saying that this is the last episode of Nitro. But he, defeated Ted Turner, and he overcame the odds. This was a battle that many people thought that he was going to lose, and he actually came out the victor at the end. But the opening match is Booker T against Scott Steiner. Scott Steiner was the WCW champion at the time. He had a very good run of being a heel champion. They were actually running a storyline where each pay-per-view he defeated the babyface #1 contender, and he actually took them out of. He would hurt them. Basically, they'd have to go in the injured reserve. They weren't on the show anymore, which in the long run doesn't really help Nitro that they have less of their big name stars on there. But month after month, there was no Goldberg, there was no Kevin Nash, there was no Psycho Sid, and Steiner was just beating every single one, and he was dominating them. Is really the way that it came down to it. Booker T, he had his run, 2000, he wins the championship at Bash at the Beach, and he had been champion. I'm not sure how many runs of WCW champion. He always says he's 5 times. I'm not sure if 100% of those. I would guess they are. Maybe one of them actually happened in WWE during the invasion, but he was a 3-time champion coming into there, and I think he was like the one star that they really had that was there. We're gonna see on tonight's show that a lot of guys just bailed on the show, even though they were under contract. They were like, well, WWE's running the show. We don't really work for WWE. Why would we go out there and work for WWE when we're wanting to actually get a contract from them in the long run? Scott Steiner loses the match. He had problems with his feet, and I don't really know where he thought he was going to go work, but he was on his best behavior, but it didn't really look like that he was a guy that WWE wanted to sign at the time. So Booker got the win. They had a match on there, which I believe was like one of the co-main events. It was Bam Bam Bigelow against Planet Stasiak. What was Stasiak's first name? But basically it was the tattoo match where if Stasiak lost, he had to actually get tattooed by Bam Bam Bigelow. Stasiak actually gets the win in like a minute and a half. It is what it is, but it all really comes down to Sting versus Flair in the match that we all kind of thought we would get. Bruce talks about the fact that he had to talk Ric Flair into wrestling this match. He actually thought his career was over. He was just a manager at the time. I think it was called like the Magnificent Seven or something like that. But without. Definitely WCW wouldn't have been as popular if it wasn't for like the NWO and Goldberg. But I don't think they even would have been on the map to get discovered by people, especially if we get an audience on TBS and TNT each and every week. If it wasn't for Flair and Sting, and for them to go out that way was possibly one of the best. The match isn't great. Sting's out of shape. Flair is definitely out of shape so bad he wrestles in a shirt. He doesn't have any confidence in himself, and just kind of goes out there and does what he has to do. But hey, really, really cool that they were able to go out that way. McMahon actually ends the show with Shane coming out, and they do the WrestleMania 17 publicity thing for their big match on pay-per-view, the Astrodome, WrestleMania 17. But WCW was in such bad shape that basically they just begged any former wrestler, any former champion, anybody that had ever done anything in WCW to show up to the show. I think they were hoping that Funk, Harley Race, other big names like that would show up that were legends, especially Dusty Rhodes. And nobody came. Nobody showed. I'm hoping that we actually see that, like, maybe some people were behind the scenes and just didn't get used. But as a Night of Champions, it really wasn't what it was cracked out to be.